Conflict's not the problem. Conflict is never the problem. It's the way we behave when we're in conflict that's the problem. And there are 5 ways to manage the conflicts in our lives, 5 different styles or approaches. And the magic happens when we pick the right one of these 5 approaches at the right time in the right situation. In this video, I'm going to explore all 5. They've all got their time and place. I want to help get you closer to the magic, because finding the best way to behave in conflict helps flip that conflict from being destructive to a more constructive and creative process. My name is Simon Dadley-Moore, and this is your channel to help you level up your communication and level up the way you deal with conflict and disagreements in your relationship. Thank you again for tuning in this week. I appreciate you. Now, before we get into the 5 ways to deal with conflict, if you haven't already downloaded your free guide to increase your argument IQ, please do it now. I've put a lot into this guide. It'll help you improve your understanding of arguments, their structure, their patterns. It'll help you level up your conflict know-how. And this is the first step to minimizing and stopping arguments in your relationship. Again, conflicts and disagreements, they're not the problem. It's how we behave that creates the problem. Okay, so the 5 styles or approaches. As I introduce these 5, please reflect yourself. Which one of these 5 are you naturally strongest in? Which do you find the most difficult? Because the ultimate aim is for you to have the skills and capacity to have all 5 of these available to you to choose and use when you need them. Now the 5 are to collaborate, to compromise, to accommodate, to compete, and to avoid. And Kenneth Thomas and Ralph Kilman created a model for these conflict styles. You can see here the vertical axis corresponds with the importance of the outcome, and the horizontal axis corresponds with the importance of the relationship. This graph clearly shows that each one of these 5 approaches has its strengths and its time and its place. So as you look at this, I wonder what stands out for you. What does stand out? What always stands out for me is that if your relationship's important to you, and I hope it is, then the best approaches are going to be down the right-hand side. Collaborating, compromising, and accommodating. Depending, obviously, on the importance of the outcome. This means that competing and avoidance aren't really that constructive in our intimate relationships. So let's start down that right-hand side. Let's start with collaborating. Because collaborating is the ideal solution for situations where the outcome's really important and there's also a need and a desire to maintain good relationships. This is the classic idea of a win-win situation where people work together to try and achieve their goals. So your partner wants to invite round their brother and his friends for dinner, and you don't really get on with the brother, but your partner sees this as an opportunity to heal this, and for you especially to realise he's not a bad guy, he's just misunderstood. Well, the collaboration approach would involve you and your partner both getting the chance to share what's going on for you, your hopes, your concerns, your needs, to speak your truth. It also involves you both being heard, and of course the intention here is that you both walk away with an outcome that works and meets your needs. Now, whilst this seems like an ideal approach, in my experience, people often find this the most difficult approach to working through conflict. Not many of us have strengths here, especially in the context of our intimate relationships. Now, there are a number of reasons here. This can take time, the collaborative approach. It requires a level of internal stability and emotional stability. And it definitely requires a level of communication and conflict know-how skills. Communication and conflict know-how skills, we just weren't taught at school. We didn't learn them in our families. And the aim of this channel, certainly my passion here, is to help you level up these skills. And in doing so, strengthen your capacity to effectively use collaboration, to use this approach as a conflict approach in your relationship, to be able to pull it out and use it when you need it. Now, the collaboration approach, though, it's not the be-all and end-all. It's not the best approach in all situations. Sometimes compromising is more appropriate. This is another essential skill, really, in relationship conflict management. Relationships are full of this. The concept here is that everyone gives up a little bit of what they want. No one gets everything they want. This is really seeking the middle ground solution or splitting the difference. The benefits here are, one, it can be fast. It can be a lot faster than collaboration. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process. It can also be perceived as fair, and this perception of fairness can be useful. It's good for temporary solutions as well. But in the example with your partner's brother, it might be that, well, you say, okay, I'll meet with your brother and his friends for dinner, but not here, not in our home. How about we go out for dinner? Then I can come home if I want to. Or, okay, your brother and his friends can come over, but the kids are going to stay at my parents' for the night, and I want everyone gone by midnight. This is compromising. Now, of course, no one really gets everything they want here, and if that's an issue for either you or your partner, then collaboration absolutely is a better approach here. Now, the last of the three on the right side of the graph where the importance of the relationship is high is accommodating. And when you accommodate, you give in. You allow your partner to have their way. It is a way of resolving things, but it can often be, if we're not careful, at the expense of our own needs and wants. And it can often be used by people wanting to keep the peace and the short term avoid difficulty. And here it will be like, yeah, okay, bring your brother and his friends, that's fine, bring them around for dinner. This has to be where the outcome's not important to you. And then you have to be willing and capable of letting it go. However, if the outcome is in any way important, and in the example of your partner's brother, it appears to be that it is, then this is not the best approach. The issues will likely still remain unresolved and resentment can build up. But when the importance of the outcome's low and the importance of the relationship's high, here is where we're best to exercise this muscle, the accommodating muscle. This is not sweating the small stuff. Maybe letting go of the need to say anything about the towel on the floor. I'll just pick it up myself. Or allowing my partner to choose the music again because it means more to them than it does to me. Being able to utilise this skill in the right situation, at the right time, in the right place, can be hugely useful in maintaining a good relationship. But again, accommodating has to involve being able to let the situation go. If you're accommodating but you're holding on to this and a resentment around this, I pick up that bloody towel every day. If you're going to stew on it, well, now you're avoiding. So collaborating, compromising and accommodating are best when the importance of maintaining a relationship's high. But unfortunately, what I see week in, week out working with clients is the regular use of competing and avoidance. And whilst these have their time and place in intimate relationships, their usefulness is really limited. If you're using them regularly, your relationships will suffer. Now, let's go with competing first. Competing is the most aggressive, combative approach. This is all about winning. This is my way or the highway. I'm going to win, and therefore you're going to lose. It's this scenario. No way are you bringing your brother around here. And you want me to sit with him and his friends after what he did? Yeah, and you won't even acknowledge that? It's not happening. I'm not playing happy families with you and your brother. Now, remembering, it's not the conflict that's the problem, it's the way we engage in it. And by competing, well, you might get your outcome, maybe. The dinner's not happening, maybe. But engaging in this way is harmful to your relationship. Now, the appropriate use of competition in relationships, really, it's only in emergencies or when there are immediate concerns for safety. For instance, if the room's on fire and our lives are in serious risk, I'm not going to ask my partner for a conversation about whether we should leave. I'm not going to stop and compromise or accommodate her wish to go back to sleep. No, I'm going to get her up and out the window any way possible. And now for avoidance. I've left this one to last because in my experience, conflict avoidance is a real problem in relationships. This is just when you ignore or completely withdraw from a situation. You walk away, you just don't engage. You pretend the issue doesn't exist. If your partner wants to talk about their brother, you're unavailable. There's no attempt to resolve anything here, even though the relationship and the outcome have at least some importance. Now, avoidance is useful when the outcome is of low importance or no importance, and nor are the relationships with the people involved. This is then useful if a stranger wants to yell angry words at me across the street. Oh, I've got no need to resolve this or improve my relationship. I'm best to avoid this and move on. But this approach doesn't really fit in our intimate relationships. When conflict is avoided, nothing's resolved. It denies any chance of a resolution, and over time these conflicts build up and amount to larger and larger issues. Now, as we uncovered in earlier videos also, conflict has both a destructive side and a creative side. And by avoiding a conflict, you also avoid the creative opportunity of conflict. You deny yourself, your partner, and your relationship, all three of you, the opportunity of learning and growth, of finding new depths in your relationship, of becoming better human beings. If I avoid bringing up how my partner spends money and the issues this causes, or how late they are home from work and the impact of this on our relationship, then yes, I avoid the short-term discomfort of addressing these issues, but I also avoid the opportunity of them being addressed. Now, so is this ever useful in our relationships? Well, yeah. If you've got concerns for your safety, this is a good reason to avoid. Sometimes there are also cultural reasons to avoid conflict. And maybe the environment or the timing's wrong, so it can be a useful short-term approach. So, does this mean then that we need to welcome and embrace all our relationship conflicts? Well, I say to a large degree, yes, we do need to get better at opening up and walking towards conflict instead of closing up and turning away. And we also need to get better at being in healthy, creative conflict rather than destructive conflict. We need to get better at difficult conversations. Again, conflict's not the problem. It's not. It's the way we engage in conflict that becomes the problem. And here's where I agree with Jordan Peterson. He states, in intimate relationships, a conflict avoided is just a conflict delayed. And a conflict delayed is a conflict magnified. So next time you're wondering how to approach something, should I avoid it? Should I just give in? Should I compromise or collaborate or compete? What should I do? How do I behave? Ask yourself, how important is the outcome here and how important is my relationship? Which is more important? Or are they both important? And then what's the best approach? This is going to help guide you to find the magic, the right approach in the right situation at the right time. Now, I love questions and comments. If you have any, you know what to do. I will respond. Next week, I'll be uploading a video on tips to strengthen your capacity to open up and move towards conflict, especially if the avoidance of conflict is one of your strengths. I'm really enjoying sharing this knowledge with you. I hope you're learning. I hope you're having fun. See you next time. Have a spectacular week and be kind to yourself out there.